Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to another one of my reviews. Today we're going budget rye battle. This is going to be the Wild Turkey 101 rye up against Old Forester 100 rye whiskey. I figured these two as a really nice entry point in the rye whiskey world would be a great head-to-head. Similar in proof, not really similar in terms of profile, but I wanted to ultimately show the difference of both of these and what they each have to offer, and maybe why I would prefer one over the other and what both of them would be great to be used for. First, let's start out with tried and true Wild Turkey 101 rye, one that is readily available for the most part all around the country, and you should be able to find this for the most part, generally speaking. So let's dive into, first up, Wild Turkey 101 rye. So for me, right away, the Wild Turkey, it has its distinct nose. You still get a nice little bit of that rye bite that's there. Nice mint. Nice amount of oak. And there's a char factor that I always get with the 101. There's just that barrel influence that I somehow always seem to pick up. That's very distinct in the Wild Turkey 101. It's almost along the lines of what I would describe as like a burnt toast. There's this burnt toast aspect to it. I always pick it up in the 101 for whatever reason, and it just makes itself very, very present. Still get a little bit of that underlying kind of vanilla caramel note, but it is that burnt toast aspect to it. It's just always there. So let's give this one a try. Cheers. First, nice mint note, very approachable. 101 proof, fantastic proof for a rye whiskey, but a really nice mint, nice baking spice to it, little muted on the spice aspect. Now the oak part of it, I don't get as much of that burnt toast aspect on the palate as I do the nose. So the transition from that is slightly different, but it's very, very approachable. Sweet caramels, vanillas, nice mint, nice kind of medium-ish kind of oak presence to it. Very approachable. Fairly mouth coating, not overly viscous by any means. Very easy sipping rye whiskey. This is just where it's very traditional in its approach that makes it easy to not only sip on this whiskey, but use this on cocktails. It's very versatile. And for me, always something that I have at the house. Now shifting gears to something quite a bit different. This is going to be from Old Forester. This is going to have a significantly higher malted barley aspect. So the profile of each one of these should be fairly significant. But again, at both of these, right around that $25 to maybe $30, $35 price point, both of these are going to be very, very good, medium-priced rye whiskeys. So what exactly does the Old Forester rye have to offer? Let's dive into that right now. Very floral. And again, this probably has a lot to do with that malted barley aspect. There's the nice, rich, like kind of chocolates, caramels, almost something along the lines of like an espresso. There's this thick body aspect to it. There's just something that's bold. It's not overly dominant by the rye whiskey that's there. Nice chocolate notes. Again, still nice vanillas, caramels. Softer, there's a floral aspect to it. Still some nice mint, but it's definitely not as minty as the Wild Turkey 101. Definitely a more unique nose, but let's find out. And again, here's what I'll also say about this. There's a little bit of a a root beer characteristic to it, maybe more along the lines of like a green or a black tea. So there's a little bit more of a like an herbal note that's there, more so than this. The Wild Turkey 101 is a very traditional, straightforward rye whiskey. This has a few more different subtle aspects to it. Again, you've got with that high malted barley that's in this, it's going to change the profile. So I wanted to go head to head and see which one of these kind of shined amongst each other, or which one stood out good or bad. All right, let's go ahead and give this one a try. Cheers. It's so different and unique as a rye whiskey that it just stands out. I love the chocolate aspect to it, and I don't know what it is that brings out so much chocolate in this, but it's, for me, one of those ryes that just has a tremendous amount of that chocolate. Again, there's that root beer aspect that's there to it as well. Some softness. There's a little bit of a floral characteristic to it. Nice oak. It's a sweet oak for sure. And the root beer, it's almost along the lines of those candies that you'll get. So you do get some of the root beer influence, but with some of that candy sweetness. It's very different and unique. It stands out quite a bit amongst really almost any other rye. But putting these head to head, I wanted to see the subtle differences, and they're actually very, very different. They're not so subtle. They're very different, but both great in their own right. Yeah, that root beer, chocolate, still nice rye spice that's there. Still the vanillas, the caramels, but that malted barley aspect that's there just changes the profile for me in such a different and great way that it's just, for me, hands down, a fantastic rye. Now, for each one of them, they have their place. From a sipping standpoint, which do I prefer? I would lean towards the Old Forester rye, just because of how different and unique it is. And I think it's one of those things where early on, you have to give this a try. You have to give it a chance. Let it kind of develop. It is going to be different because the approach that we all kind of have as a baseline is often the Wild Turkey 101. It's very tried and true, traditional type of rye whiskey, and it definitely has its place. Now, going head to head from a sipper standpoint, my choice would be the Old Forester rye. I just love the different, unique profile that it has, and it just kind of stands out. Now, from a cocktail standpoint, kind of depends on what it is you're going for. You know, the Wild Turkey 101, you're going to get something very, very kind of traditional, straightforward. I think with this, it still offers some different, unique flavors that will allow it to kind of stand out a little bit more in the cocktail. So from a head-to-head standpoint, very similar prices, both relatively readily available for the most part. My recommendation or my head-to-head winner would be the Old Forester rye whiskey. So hopefully that helps. If you're kind of looking for a little idea on what each one of these have to offer, there you have it. The Wild Turkey 101 rye against the Old Forester rye whiskey. Hopefully it helps a little bit, kind of gives you a little more education on what each one of these have to offer and why. And yeah, so there you have it. My choice of these two would be the Old Forester rye whiskey. I want to say thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. Greatly appreciate all of your support. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can through my Patreon page, which I'll have linked in the description below. That also allows you to become part of the Bourbon Journey Whiskey Club, where Jason and I offer up our picks through different distilleries to all of our Patreon supporters. So if that's of interest to you, make sure you check the link in the description below. So with that being said, I want to say thank you again. And remember, it's about the journey, and not the destination. Cheers.